Thank you very much. So, DeSci, in my opinion, is going to be the next big thing coming into Web3. A lot of the things in finance have really been solved, and the big competition there is just for user experience. But what's happening so far in DeSci is really just scratching the surface. We've got a few things that are handling data storage and biomed, but science itself is absolutely enormous in scope. And really, if you think about it, it really dictates the quality of life for everybody else in the world as tech trickles down from military to government and finally into the private sector. So we want to greatly accelerate the time it takes for technology to get into our hands. So with us today, we're going to be talking to a couple other founders here, Brandon and Oliver, about just DeSci kind of at a high level. And I guess my first question to you guys is, what does DeSci need in order to be successful as an overall sector in crypto, but also personally for your companies? How do you define success?
Great, good question. Thank you for being moderator, Aaron. I think DeSci really needs adoption, and then more adoption. We have the technology, we have the intellectual property tokens, we have marketplaces, but we really need scientists to be willing to say, hey, I will try this new funding mechanism. And then with the scientists and also the investors or the corporate sponsors need to start trying new tools to fund science. And I think this will really power open innovation, this huge global trend where companies are looking outside of their own laboratories to pull innovation in from universities and scientists. So I think that's adoption is what we need most. And like our big goal is to have over 1,000 products or therapies originate from our platform. And if we can do that, then I think everyone can benefit downstream from science.
Yeah. Great question, Aaron. Thank you for the introduction. So for me, I believe that there are actually two definitions of success, right? So we can look at the science kind of things. So the success that's defined by a scientific innovation, or if we reveal some sort of new compound that's going to lead definitely towards, saving lives, because that's what, in my opinion, DeSci is about, right? Definitely saving or at least extending lives to its maximum lifespan. I'm personally not a believer that we can live till infinity, right? That's something that's not going to be possible unless you get your body frozen and wake up in 3,000 years. But we definitely, through science, can extend our lives and live them at least healthier. And the second definition of success would be success for DeSci in the Web3 space, right? Because it's a movement, it's a narrative that's been pretty hot lately in the Web3 world, and we also don't have only scientists in the space, but we have the communities, we have the investors, right? And the investors, let's be honest, they invest for a reason. They want to see these compounds, happen. They want to see people living longer lives, but most importantly, they want to see these projects that are working in decentralized science to actually, flip into profit and start making money on their invention. And that's also one of the, let's say, important things for DeSci to actually be successful. So, two simple things, increasing, lifespan, finding compound stuff, inventions that are gonna make an impact, and second, making the market cap generally of science actually grow. And this is something that we've been trying to also solve and achieve at Data Lake. But I personally believe, for me, it is making an impact and making all the stakeholders in science, whether it is patients, doctors, researchers, but also investors happy, and creating a common goal of what we're trying to achieve, which is simplifying the recruitment of patients into all sorts of scientific trials.
Yeah, well said. I echo a lot of those sentiments. In addition to running Unbound Science, I also run a Web3 impact fund called Collective Ventures, and we look for founders that are doing good in the world, and we measure impact by people affected by what you're doing. And I think crypto's original ethos was you can do good in the world and make money. And unfortunately, I think we've kind of gotten away from that a little bit, at least over this last brutal bear market, where people are literally willing to do anything and everything now to try and make enough money to change their lives overnight and resolve their desperation. You know, we've seen some things happen on, pump.fund that are absolutely appalling and not what our industry stands for at all. And in response to that, we've had a conversation amongst ourselves in DeSci saying, what can we do to bring the current trend and ride the current wave into DeSci without it hurting our reputation, but instead helping fund science? So looking at different memes and degen stuff going on right now, what are some of the things you're seeing happening in the DeSci side, or that you'd like to see happen to help maybe some of the less sophisticated money help the more sophisticated minds of the world?
All right. So honestly, I think that it's crucial for us to actually attract these retail investors, these people, we call them people from the streets, right? Because they're not scientists, they're people that are looking for short-term gains. But also, we must take into account that DeSci is something that's not going to make a revolution in a year or two. It's something that we actually spoke together earlier in the room about. That's DeSci is something that's going to make an impact, let's say, in 10 years, and we need stakeholders that's going to be, that's going to have vested interest for this amount of time. But obviously, with, things as Pump Fund mentioned happening, DeSci obviously wants to take a little piece of cake of this attention, right, that all these meme coins are getting. But what I believe would be crucial, and what our projects such as Pump Science are doing, is taking the meme coin aspect of things, but taking away the negative side of it. So they're using the creative ways of funding these coins that actually they represent compounds they're trying to make research on, and they take away the bad stuff. So actually behind a meme coin, behind the meme kind of marketing, there is science, right? Instead of someone looking to take away the liquidity the second day they release the token, right? And I believe that the direction we're going is great, as long as the real cause behind what is being done and behind the token that's being released is the actual science. And it actually kind of scares me, when the DeSci is getting kind of hot lately, because I'm worried that these scams that are most commonly linked with meme coins and the other hot stuff are also gonna appear in science, and actually gonna harm its reputation, and actually making science reputable, while combining it with Web3 is one of the most important aspects right now.
Do you think we could partner with existing meme coin communities like Pudgy Penguins and just put some cool sunglasses on them, or a flying car for the penguin?
I don't see a reason why we shouldn't be able to do it with those reputable ones, right? So not a Pump Fund meme coin that was created yesterday, and has a 50K market cap, but long-time established communities such as Pudgy Penguins, or Bored Apes.
Let's have some flying inspired apes or something,
Yeah, like a science collection of Bored Ape Yacht Club, that would be amazing. I mean, look at Vanek, right? They're the fund managers, they have the ETFs, and they put a Pudgy Penguin on their profile picture, and it helped both the project's benefits. So
we're going to work on an airdrop for what mutant apes became. We're going to do the scientist apes as soon as we're done on stage here.
They definitely bored.
Yeah, I think so. What do you think, Brendan?
Yeah, I think we could use more bio DAOs in Asia, especially. Really groups of people that come together and really invest in one specific area. For example, there could be bio DAOs for different patient groups. So if there's a group of people that really care about lung cancer or dementia, or even like climate technology or quantum computing, they can start a DAO and then trade and buy decentralized science research on our platforms. I think that could be cool. And going back to your meme coin idea, a lot of these individual science projects that are sliced and diced and turned into retail tokens, which are called intellectual property tokens, or IPTs. They could probably use a logo too. That would be cute and lovable. So, I mean, yesterday there's a IPT that came out on fertility research out of Spain called FACC. So maybe that could use some kind of, memorable icon.
Yeah, who doesn't love cute babies? We need to get like little cute baby plushies around that are supporting fertility. A great idea, actually.
Sure.
One thing that we're going to be doing for Unbound Science is we've come up with a concept called mystery boxes, because that's what science is. It's solving mysteries and making magic understood, and then just that becomes science. So we're taking an approach to doing that in Web3 with sort of like blind swaps for different tokens and memes and things that you already have. You can say, okay, I'm willing to risk this to get something else out of the pool. And it'll be kind of like a very fun way of gambling, but the fees that are collected on that platform will then go towards funding scientific research and inventors and things like that. So we'll see how it goes. How do you guys look at DeSci in Asia, and specifically Taiwan? I think, the incumbent markets like Europe and US, they have systems that more or less are perceived as working for them. And the same thing with Bitcoin. It took a long time to be willing to acknowledge a new system. But in emerging markets where there isn't a lot of support already, I think, we would be welcomed more easily with open arms. What are you guys seeing so far in your experiences?
Yeah, I see some interest in DeSci, especially on the university side. The researchers are really starved of capital. Sometimes in Japan, for example, the researchers only get about $2,000 from the universities. So they're really eager to explore funding opportunities, and DeSci is one of those. For Taiwan, I think the companies here have a huge opportunity to fund science in Taiwan and other countries, and use kind of their neighbors as what places to source new ideas and products and therapies. So these well-capitalized Taiwanese pharma companies, for example, could sponsor research in Japan or Southeast Asia, and then pull those new ideas, those new products into Taiwan, and then develop those products further. So really using Taiwan as a capital base, and then pulling in ideas and new products from all around the region could be really interesting.
I'm just wondering, does science have actually any, geographical boundaries? Because, what you said obviously makes sense, but I think that's, Asia and generally every region can heavily benefit from DeSci and from actually giving access to the funding. And if you look at how research is done in US and Europe, that the most favorable researchers are actually funded, and that only well-established researchers get the funding. I think this actually happens everywhere in the world. And for example, what we're personally doing, as I've already mentioned, is the patient recruitment platform. So we basically enable anyone, be it a graduate student, be it a starting researcher or a big pharma company, to actually be able to publish a scientific trial on the platform and look for a patient with a rare disease. Because whether it is in Poland or whether it is in Taiwan or in the US, if you're trying to find 0.001% of the population that has a certain disease, it's gonna be hard. Nevertheless, if you're in this region or that region, and bringing science in the sense of finding the right people for the scientists on chain, it's great because most of the people have access to the internet, and if you add the monetization and incentivization factor to it, this can really be honestly huge. And I think that would be my opinion. DeSci has no boundaries, but we have seen adoption, in these regions when it comes to crypto generally and Web3 and Bitcoin. It has been much faster than in highly regulated countries such Europe.
I think that's a great point. If we really want to accelerate innovation, we have to be a global science community, which is really difficult to do face-to-face, with needing different visas to travel, and you've got different sanctions and other political games that are really getting in the way of things. If I as an American want to go work with Chinese scientists or Russian scientists, I'm going to have a very, very difficult problem, which is really unfair to those scientists that have had nothing to do with their government's policies. So DeSci is a huge opportunity for global collaboration in real time, which is a really, really exciting aspect of it. I went to Singapore earlier this year and I did a presentation at Nanyang University, which is one of the top technical universities in the world. And I asked their researchers, what are your pain points and problems here? And they said even there they have to come out of pocket themselves to fund their research and their passions, which is absolutely absurd. If one of the richest universities and countries in the world can't support them, what hope does a PhD researcher have in Argentina or Brazil or anywhere else for that matter? So I think the decentralized community can really come in there and provide support, not just for these particular researchers, but for disruptive innovation itself, which seems to have been banned from science recently. I don't know when that happened exactly, probably before our lifetimes, but only incremental progress has really been made for many decades now. It was over 100 years ago that zero-point energy was first discovered and then buried, and then 5 times since then it's been rediscovered, and mysteries have happened why it hasn't come out. But one thing that did happen in the 1950s was the US government passed something called the Innovation Act, which allowed them to take anything that came through the patent office and use it for military application if they so saw fit. So since then, the US government has essentially stolen over 6,000 patents for new technologies, especially relating to energy. So what has happened now is we've got a traditional patent system that no one knows is a horrible scam until it's too late. But blockchain can solve that. Blockchain makes things uncensorable, immutable, as we all know. And it's not just financial transactions, but potentially the blueprints for life-changing technology. Like, I don't think that it's fair that copyrights are in place, you know, where some guy 100 years ago did a math equation and now no one else is allowed to do that same math. Give me a break. So we want to free science once again and allow it to push boundaries and force the incumbent owners of this world to compete again. I don't think we're going to topple governments or conglomerates like Samsung and LG, but we're going to force them to work with us again and keep pushing the boundaries to make the world a better place. I mean, how much money has gone into cancer research, and you're telling me they haven't figured it out? I'm not buying it. But what I am buying is electricity at near 35 cents a kilowatt. That's insane to me, and we definitely need to force more competition through decentralized science, and more than just the biomed that's existing now. What are some of the things that you guys have seen that's saying, man, if I only had more time, I would want to bring this into DeSci and watch that aspect of the world get disrupted?
Yeah, I would create more like DeSci labs, like open labs, because so many of these scientists are working at universities and they're so distracted by administrative meetings, by office politics, by teaching undergrads. I would just bring more physical space where researchers can go and set up and do experiments just full time.
Like a makerspace, but for specific...
Exactly, yeah. And these are already popping up in Boston and San Francisco and Europe, and there's 3 open in Japan already.
Do you know the names of them by chance off the top of your head?
Biolabs is one brand that's going around, and then there's also like just independent ones that are opening. So, and WeWork might have like wet labs that are co-working spaces too.
Incredible.
Yeah, and I think this speaks to one of your points about like why isn't cancer cured yet? A lot of it is because the administrative costs of universities are so high. Like I was at MIT in October and I heard that it's about 55% administrative costs for all the research funded. So just think half the money is going toward like management and not really going to science in the laboratory. So I think DeSci can really lower those costs, those intermediary costs, and fund a lot more science, and then give the brilliant researchers more time to really go deep on their topic instead of having to teach or go to staff meetings. That's one thing I'm excited about.
You know, imagine there's a $60 billion market of medical data, but yet individuals cannot actually sell their own medical data. Like, how crazy is that? You know, you can sell used clothes, you can sell your art, you know, online for 50 cents, but you cannot sell your personal data. I mean, medical data that would actually help any researchers. And you know, I think that's a huge problem. That would be something we would, you know, love to solve, and we weren't able to solve so far. I think it's also a part of our greater vision. But honestly, it's crazy, right? Because on one hand, you have researchers, they need data for their research. And I mean, you know, graduate students, they want to run a trial on 10 patients and their data, or 20 patients, you know. But you have the big fish, you have the big pharma, you have the large research organization, you know, and they need large data sets to train their AI, you know, and do data mining on hundreds of thousands of patients, you know. And this really creates like a dark black hole in the space of, you know, a market that's basically non-existent, and that's matching the patient that perhaps have a unique medical history, because all of us actually have a unique medical history, you know, to be able and monetize it, right? In the eyes of regulations and legislation, selling medical data is deemed like you would be selling your organs. But come on, it's data. It's something different. You know, you're not selling a piece of you, but you're actually doing something to help other people like you. You're doing something to help, you know, the civilization and help the researchers, you know, and actually accelerate science, right?
One of the things in Web3 that's kind of a confusing thing for everyone in DeSci right now is the expectation of profit and the financial aspect that is being applied since we're in Web3. But scientists don't really focus on markets or any kind of financial stuff other than, you know, when you've got a product ready, then you can lease and license or sell it and all that stuff. But it's very much it has its own market cycles where you're going through the trial phase, which can take multiple years, kind of like a bear market. And then when you find success in what you're trying to research, then you've got this huge spike up. But you've got crypto investors looking in not necessarily for impact, but for quick profits. Should DeSci platforms have a token? And if so, what should those tokens do? And how important is supporting the market of a token for the success of the DeSci project itself? What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Honestly thinking, you know, there's a yes and there's a no. There's several aspects. Let me tap into the more positive ones, because I believe, you know, the whole tokenization scheme in DeSci projects actually makes sense, right? Because you have a lot of stakeholders that you actually need to somewhat reward, monetize. You know, we have them in regions, as you said, India, China, Russia, right? Try sending a wire transfer today from Europe to Russia. It's going to be impossible, right? Because of the politics and because of how traditional science kind of depends on the political situation. And this is something that actually DeSci takes away by actually adding the tokenization element, you know? So if you have a, let's say, research DAO, and you need to reward, you know, the patients that have become the part of the DAO and contributed, or other contributors, be it researchers or funders or advisors, you know, then, you know, having a token to being able to incentivize them makes sense. But if you cannot actually, you know, find the real use case of the token inside of your infrastructure, inside of your DAO, or your technology that doesn't need it, right, in a sense, then, you know, doing it just for the sake of marketing, you know, just to have a token, just to attract investors, you know, and just having these people come for short-term gains, it can definitely, I think, mostly 99.9% of times just harm your reputation. It's going to bring in people that are going to expect 20x the next day, and they're not going to be aligned with your vision. They're not going to understand what you do as a scientist, you know, and there's actually no way that they would support the cause you're trying to achieve. So there's a yes if you can implement the token into a project, have a tokenomics and economics of the whole ecosystem work. We, for example, have the application, we have the chain where we have the token as the gas token, we reward the patients, we reward the doctors, every stakeholder is incentivized. But there are also projects that just did it for the sake of raising the funds, or just for the sake of marketing, and I think that's simply wrong.
Yeah, great points by Oliver. To answer your question, like there is a tension between short-term profits and kind of the patient process of science and investigation. But I think we should treat DeSci like we do science. Just make a lot of experiments and see what works, and just be honest with each other. Make it clear that this is a longer-term endeavor than just a meme coin, and see how it works. And I think the good part is that with these intellectual property tokens, the scientist gets a certain cap no matter what the token does. Whatever the initial raise is, that scientist gets that money and then can use that in the lab. So the token is kind of speculating on the future outcome, but at least that core kind of contribution goes to the lab. So yeah, let's see how it works, and just be trial and allow trial and error to work its magic.
I think that's a great model, actually. I mean, you can definitely look at a scientist's background a lot easier than you can a business founder. I think the odds of a scientist rugging you for funds are a lot less than, some random person that just came up saying, I'm going to build some middleware that's going to be obsolete in 6 months anyway, But yeah, if you get some upside of his future gains, I think that's a great model as well. I've been trying to struggle, for a long time to think of what would a good, tokenized business model be for a DeSci project, and, should the tokens represent ownership of some of the IP? Should it just be, voting rights in a DAO? Like, there's so many different ways to do it, and then, of course, being American, we've got the SEC to deal with, which just makes everything just so much worse and more complicated than it needs to be.
It'll get better soon.
Yeah, it will, thankfully. But then there's NFTs that also help out with that can kind of skirt around different things to do. I think one thing that I'd really hope that comes out of DeSci overall is some sort of disruptive technology that really improves the lives of everyone, whether it is a cure for cancer or something that, allows quality of life into our later 70s and 80s or 90s to be that much better, or infinite free energy, or whatever it is. I think DeSci is the place it's going to do. This is going to come to life. It's not going to come to life from GE. It's not going to come from LG. It's not going to come from, Tokyo University. There's just too many politics. So what we're looking for is someone out there, maybe even in the audience today or watching at home, that has some incredible workshop in their house, and they just don't know how to distribute it. I think DeSci is an amazing place for inventors that are post-research, that are building, that are getting their hands dirty, that aren't just, writing science nonfiction in a journal somewhere, but actually building solutions that every person needs. And for them, we're going to all be building tools for you. So definitely everyone keep an eye on the DeSci space. If you want to follow where things are going on, DeSci.world is essentially the coin market cap of decentralized science. So go there, bookmark it, check it out, check back every few months and see what's going on. And us at Unbound Science, we're going to be back here in Taiwan every year. Somewhere down the road, we'll open an office here. We believe in Taiwan and the Taiwanese people as being some of the most innovative in the world. But we want to do our part in helping Taiwan get recognized as that, so we can keep Taiwan, Taiwan. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. You can follow us at Unbound Science on Twitter, join our Telegram. You can see Nikki out there. She's handing out some snacks that we brought over from America, so please don't make us haul them back. Too many. And where can we follow you gentlemen as well, and where can we learn more about what you guys are building?
All right, so you tapped into the if you have a workshop at home. So if you don't have a workshop, but you have a research idea and you're looking for funding, or you're looking to recruit patients into your scientific project, then definitely check Data Lake. It's Data Lake token on X, or just datalake.co, our website, or you can just Google Data Lake Crypto. You're gonna find us, and yeah.
Great, thanks. We're at merito.network, so merito.network, and then also on X and Medium, we have a longer form essays to explain our science. And just your last point about breakthroughs that draw attention, we're going to have some fertility-related IPTs come out next year in Japan, so that could be a really good demonstration of the technology.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much, and thank you all for listening. Thank you to Taipei Blockchain Week for having us. Thank you so much.